Good morning. Good morning. What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations 2020, Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads and fathers that's sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. And as always, I like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. And you're watching the Morning Vibe, broadcasting live from GTA, as we know it's a Greater Toronto area, or is it GTHA, Greater Toronto Halton area? I hear that now. It's on, so we're on August 4th. The first weekend in August, I guess some people say halfway, I guess if you're in this part of the world, halfway through the summer, and the beginning of Caravana weekend in Toronto, or I like to call it a Marabana. So again, I hope everyone's keeping, blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. My co-host, Mr. Ryan Knight, is not with us today. He's taking a little vacation time with his family. So he will be back with us on Monday. And this is a long weekend, at least in Ontario, the province that I live in here. And we will be broadcasting live on Monday. Just FYI on that. So if you think, oh, they're going to take a little time off, no. So as always, like people to shout out where you're looking in from. Shirley J says already, good morning. It's Friday. Yes, it is. It is Friday. And hope you and your family and your organization, the Black Canadian Content Creators, are keeping blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. Let's keep it going. So some little housekeeping rules first. First off, please like the Dr. Vibe show on YouTube. So subscribe and hit the notification button so other people get notified, or you get notified when we hold these epic conversations. Also, like the Dr. Vibe show on Facebook, LinkedIn, and you see, I finally put Instagram. Also, if you want to, we'd love you to continue our conversations offline in between our Monday and Friday morning shows. So go to Discord, or not go to Discord. We want you to get on Discord. So want you to email me at dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. Get you part of the Discord conversation. And then finally, if you want to advertise your business or service on this show or any of the shows that I host, email me again, dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. So for those people who are in the, well, I guess anywhere in the world, who's going to Caravana? And if you haven't, how long has it been since you've been to Caravana, and why aren't you going? Also want to shout out to Opal Inspired, starting her own YouTube channel, building it slowly but surely. I was speaking with Opal Inspired the other day, and she has, I think she wanted to hit 40 YouTube subscribers on her birthday, which was this week. I won't say what day. And she did that. So now her next goal is 50. I'm sure it's going to happen soon. So thank you so much for that. Yeah. So myself, I'm not going to a Marabana. I haven't been in a long time, just different reasons. And I just think that we're good at celebrating, and we should celebrate. There's other areas of concern that, just in my lens, we need to be spending our energy on. One of the big stories going on in this area right now is, and we talked about it a few weeks ago, about the death of this non-Melanie principal in the Toronto, who worked for the Toronto School Board, who committed suicide. And right-wing media is saying, oh, DEI, this and that. They've got to stop DEI training in the Ontario school system. They're trying to say that, DEI made this man commit suicide, or the way he was treated by an organization called the Kojo Institute led to that. That's just the high level of that. I've reached out to one of the organizations in support of the Kojo Institute. They had a press conference, I believe, on Wednesday. I watched the whole thing. So waiting patiently to see if they're going to come on and talk about it, because there are concerns that the Ontario government is going to stop DEI training in the school board system. So for me, this is just me. That's more important for me to spend my energies right on than Carabana. But Carabana does have a place. But there's room at a lot of space at the table for those sort of things. So that's some of my energy. So as always, especially live, comment. It is the first Friday of August. And what do we do on first Fridays? Do people know? What do we do on first Fridays? Tell me in the comments. Or who's coming on to drop knowledge bombs? Do you know? If you don't, you're going to know. But if I'd love anyone in the channel to say, who's coming on today? Okay, maybe you're too much thinking about Ameribana. So it's Financial First Fridays with Wayne Harris. So he is going to be coming on right now, right here. Mr. Harris, how are you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Dr. Vibe, I am well. How are you, sir?
Blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, solution for someone's problem, and Blackalicious.
Exactly, as you should be. As you should be. Good to see you.
How is the family doing?
This has been a good summer, quiet summer for me. Very quiet. I've been not a lot of traveling. Usually, I'm in Montreal all the time, but chilling on that, and looking forward to taking some holiday time with my bride of what will be in 2 weeks. 31 years.
Ooh.
Let's go. Let's go.
Nice. So, okay. So what we're going to, you and I could ramble for all, but I think it's really important from your lens. What are some of the secrets of everlasting Black love?
Ooh, big question. Big question.
Well, you're the guy, you're the man for the job.
Well, let me tell you, when I was introduced to this young lady by my then sister's boyfriend, Sylvan, in 1985, I didn't know that chance encounter and handshake and phone number exchange would turn into what we've done today. But I did know that when she was in my presence, she lowered my anxiety, lowered my blood pressure, just was a positive vibe because I was coming through a tumultuous preteen and teen time frame with my mother passing when I was 11 and living with my father. And he was, let's just say he was not used to having 3 kids full time.
Yeah.
Right? We'll leave it at that. So she came along at the exact right time to help me with my mindset and build my belief in myself. And as much as I'm like, oh man, I got a good girl, but I got a good girl at 19. Now I'm done, right? Because you're supposed to go out and be that guy in your 20s. And I didn't want to be that guy, nor did I need to be that guy, because I found what I said I was looking for. And what that was, yeah, there was obviously physical attraction, but it was her vibe. She was calming and supportive. Right. And even though I didn't have my act together, when she met me, I was making $5 an hour at McDonald's. Shout out to Peel Street McDonald's in Montreal that no longer exists. But that was where I got my system mindset and my work ethic from, because I wasn't working for the money. I was working for my team, and it started to develop my leadership skills. And she was on that same shift with me. And that's where we really met our bonds. Worked together, played together, and had fun together. And we've been doing that for 38 years. There's trust. Yeah, there's trust there.
Yeah.
Right. Trust is a big part. There's respect there.
Yeah.
Right. As some of you know, my wife is a 2nd degree black belt in judo, and she's a sensei at her dojo in Oakville, Shimbukan. Shout out to Mississauga Judo, and she has dozens of kids that have become black belt under her tutelage.
Wow.
And when I think about that, that's her lane. I'm not a judo guy. I would go to judo tournaments and I would show interest in that, but I'm a basketball guy. She would come and support me, and I would go and support her. So there's love, yes. There's trust, yes. There's respect, yes. But shared values. One of the things that I was theorizing on was how to be a husband. She was raised in a 2-parent household, so she understood what father and mother looked like in the same house. I don't remember seeing him. My parents were only together for 3 years, 1966 to 1969. I was born, well, actually 62 to 69. I was born in 66. I don't remember them being together under the same roof. I remember my mother running the show, and then I remember my father running the show. Having that dynamic of husband and wife in the same household, one of us should have it. So you're not theorizing. She had it, I didn't. So I took my lead from her and her parents and how they ran their business. But they were in Trinidad, not in Canada. So I had to find a surrogate, and I found him. And today's his birthday, so shout out to Andrew Yearwood, who's in Mississauga, which is the reason I live in Mississauga. He and his wife, Darlene, have been together for 44 years. And he's the one who taught me what I needed to do to stay in the pocket of this marriage and not major in the minors and have goals set for us. So we knew what we were working towards every year, whether it was buying a house, putting the kids through school, saving for a vacation, doing renovations. We're always on the same page on what we want to do in any given year. And everybody knew their position. So I wasn't trying to do what she did well. She wasn't trying to do what I did well. I negotiate mortgages well. I negotiate house prices well. That's not her jam. She's the IKEA and furniture queen. So I'm not trying to do that. You know, everything looks good to me. It could be black, blue, green. The colors are off. Me, is it comfortable and can it recline? That's my criteria.
Because for people you can't see here, but Wayne is a rather tall gentleman, so reclining is very important for his body.
Exactly. So all I'm looking for is comfort, and we are very strong yin yang. You know, people talk about marriages 50-50. Anybody who's saying that is usually single. Marriage is not 50-50. Marriage is 100-100. And sometimes when I'm traveling or I'm busy doing something, she will take on 125 and I will take on 75.
Yep.
I will take on 50 and she will take on 150. Then I'll take on 175 because maybe she had something like a baby, and I'll take on 200 and she'll take on 0 because she's taking care of the child. And that will move. But she has what she knows she needs to do in alignment with what we're trying to accomplish as a couple. And I know what I have to do in alignment with what we have to accomplish as a couple. And we work together, and that pendulum is going to shift on a daily basis. But usually it comes back to 100-100 in our respective lanes. So we don't have any role confusion.
Wonderful stuff. Before we go forward, more people. Shirley J says, congratulations. Fitnance IQ says, morning, everyone. She also says, congratulations. Opal Inspired says, congratulations all around. Okay. Richard Tate says, my oldest friend is dropping gems.
Yes. So a little something about Richard Tate. We met the first day of kindergarten.
What?
A long time ago.
What?
He's one of my friends that is
kindergarten
till now. So if you're ever in the West Island of Montreal in a little city called Dollard-des-Ormeaux, there's a gem of a restaurant called Bistro Nola, and it has New Orleans inspired food. Go ask for Chef Richard and tell him I sent you.
Richard, I know between now and the end of the year, I'm going to be in Montreal because I have relatives in Pierrefonds.
Right next door.
So I am going to check you out. I'm going to come in and just say, I was sent here by Wayne Harris.
Yes. Make sure you book a reservation on Open Table or directly on the website because he's sold out 3 weeks in a row. My friend, don't play. Do not play. This restaurant is the bomb.
Well, that is, look in this. And well, Richard, right back at you. I'm looking forward to meeting you also. That is fantastic. And how long has that restaurant been there then?
Over 10 years.
Nice.
I think it's about 12 or 13 now. COVID was rough. He had to go to pivot. He didn't panic. He pivoted and had to try to maintain his staff and his position, but he survived it. And he went to takeout and survived and cut his staff and cut his days. But because he's an operator, he and Chris kept it together. So Chris is also his partner there. Chris Emer. Chris is awesome. And the two of these guys with their staff make having dinner out a really, really pleasurable experience.
Actually, I should introduce Roger Dundas to them, because their Buy Blacks Restaurant Week is coming up in the fall, and maybe see if they'd be interested in participating in that.
I think you did, but
Okay.
you can reach out to Richard, and I'll
Yeah,
give you the contact info, and you guys can do
that'd be
your thing.
great. That'd be great. And actually, I'd like to actually have him on the show too,
Oh,
because that
100%. Yeah.
that's the things we want to celebrate here on this platform. So thanks again. Well, you know what? You're here again. Oh, so I got a message here. We just want to make sure yeah, he says he did participate. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you,
go.
Richard. All right. Good stuff. All right. So as Wayne sips his lovely tea, let's talk about what we're going to chat about this month.
Well,
Go ahead.
Thank you for that. Last month we got distracted. Let's say it was a good distraction. Let me just set the table here a little bit, because there's a lot going on. First of all, this is Leo season, and I'm a Leo. My birthday was last week, and I think Leos are one of the best signs in the zodiac. But if you ask me, Leo,
nice big smile on your face when you're saying that. Go ahead.
Say Leos are the best sign in the zodiac. But I want to be humble. I want to be humble as a Leo. But Leos are amazing. And with Leo season, we give you the gift of Carabana weekend, as we've spoken about before. I want you to understand this. Carabana has been going on for 56 years. I've been around since the first Carabana, so you can tell by the gray hair here. I've been around a little while. Let's say conservatively, Carabana brings 1 million people conservatively to the city over a 2-week period, conservatively, and they've been running for 56 years. Let's say conservatively, the economic echo of Carabana is 10x to the city. Hotels, cabs, food, restaurants, takeout, all the other things that we have going on in Toronto that will benefit from those 1 million people coming in. And as you say, a Maribana, they come to Toronto. So 10 times. That means 56 years is 56 million people. 10 times is over $500 million in economic input to the city of Toronto and the greater GTA, as people go further and further out to find places to stay to get down to the parade tomorrow. Of that $560 billion over the course of 56 years, please tell me, Dr. Vibe, what are the artifacts for the Black families and Black communities of the GTA? And anybody who's listening, please let me know what the echo of that economic infusion has been to the Black community. I'll wait. Let me sip my tea.
Yeah, slim to none. People take their money and run. It's like an old song by a group called Steve Miller Band. It goes, "Oh, take the money and run."
Yes. So this is a challenge for me, because over the last couple of weeks, I've seen a gentleman who runs a very popular Mediterranean or Middle Eastern restaurant go downtown and bring publicity to the plight of refugees who are sleeping on the street. I had no idea. I don't go downtown much anymore since COVID. There's no reason for me to go downtown, so I'm not going downtown. I really don't know what's going on down there. If you see me go east of the 427, you know something's going on, right?
Well, you're like me. If you see me going west of the 401, I need one of these.
Yes. Right? You go north of Steeles, your ears pop, and if you go towards the water, right? So he brought it to my attention. It was on the news, and he showed me the video of him donating meals to these people of African descent living on the streets. And I was wondering to myself, where's the city on this? Where's the city on this? Where are the NGOs on this? Where, like UNICEF, Red Cross, the various Black community organizations that have resources? Where were they to help these people? And then a friend of mine pointed out, she go, "What are you doing?" I go, "Well, I didn't know until I found out." And once I found out, I said, "Okay, we got clothes. We're going to donate off to the church at Dufferin and Finch. I think it's revival time, and we're going to donate those clothes, and we're going to do that this weekend. So we're going to do our thing, and people have done it, and they've told us what they're going to do. I'm just thinking, there's going to be 1 million revelers, even $1 each. $1 each. If you get to go, you remember UNICEF when we used to do Halloween? We used to have the little UNICEF boxes.
Yes.
Right. So if we did something like that tomorrow, and the money was, taken in, you'd have $1 million minimum, a minimum of $1 million tomorrow to go and give to the refugees. Or if someone were to say, we don't have to collect the money that way, we can collect the money via whatever electronic means. Here's a QR code, donate the money, PayPal, whatever you want to do, and the money will be handled electronically rather than cash, which is preferred. And you would get your tax receipt and do that. You just walk up and down the lakeshore and talk to people, and you would get $20 from one person, $10 from another, nothing from 15 people, $100 from another person. You should be able to get to that $1 million in one day and have it allocated to the refugees. Yes or yes? Good idea?
Absolutely.
Right? I think so.
Yep.
Simple, right? We just have to pick which NGO, which has a charitable number, and honestly, you don't need it. But if you're giving $1, $2, $3, nobody really cares about a tax receipt. But if you're going to give $25 or more, you'll get a tax receipt, and you should be able to raise $1 million to $2 million tomorrow. Between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m., you should be able to raise $2 million.
Sure.
Right? So I implore anybody who's listening to this, who's a part of an organization or knows of an organization that has a facility and the volunteers, to go and get that done. Right? Because it makes sense. It makes no sense to me that people are starving and living on the street, and there's a massive parade of people who look just like them going on having a great time.
Well, and this is part of what you're chatting about today. And I'm going to share something, and I feel I may be a little bit at fault, but I only have so much resources. It was very interesting to me that this didn't become frontline news until someone who it should have been us who brought it to the forefront. We had someone else bring it front. Now people say, well, you're a media organization. I am one person. Mm-hmm. And I'm not making excuses, but it became forefront when a gentleman who's not melanated, a gentleman who owns Paramount Fine Foods, Middle Eastern food company, brought to the attention.
Right.
And I just said, we have to look at ourselves. And the other day, someone says, Dr. Vibe, you should mention this. There is an organization that is collecting donations. Mm-hmm. They don't have a charitable status.
Right.
So this person came to me and said, where is the money going if they're not a registered charitable status? I'm going to leave it at that.
Right. Yeah, I think we could leverage the churches and the NGOs that we have already. So Tropicana, JCA, the Revival Time Church, they all have charitable numbers, and we can leverage those numbers and donate to them, and they will allocate accordingly. I'm just saying that in 2023, with the digitization of money happening all over the world, I find it disheartening that we're not more organized in how we can respond to this, because I think there's more than enough resources and money to help solve this problem. Now, people are going to say to me, hey, Wayne, that's the government's job. That's the federal, provincial, and city government job. This is true to a point. But we saw what happened when certain immigrants or refugees came from certain countries, that they were digested by that community wholeheartedly. And they said, no, we got it. We'll take care of our own. We got it. And they just kind of took care of those people. And again, that's anecdotal. I don't know how true that is, but I don't remember seeing any of them on the street. I saw them in hotels. I saw them in motels. I saw them being taken in by families. And I saw churches stepping up immediately because they knew how to handle that response. And I think our response is disjointed because there is a disconnect between our community and the community of the people who came to Canada as refugees. I don't know anyone from that country. So even though they look like me, so to speak, I don't have any connection with them. And that connection or lack thereof harkens back to colonialism. But myself as a, you know, a Canadian born person of African descent, I'm smart enough to say, okay, I don't know you, but I'll need to know you to help you. Let me help you. And I gave money to other causes of people who didn't look like me because I felt for those people. I don't know if a couple of years ago there was a picture of this little kid who drowned. He was like 3 years old, who drowned on the shores of Greece or Italy, and that picture went around the world.
War on the world, yes.
And all of a sudden, the plight of those migrants trying to get across in these rubber boats came to the forefront. So we're at the forefront now. We have a massive event coming up tomorrow. We had the King and Queen last night. I don't know. I went once, I think, to go Lamport Stadium to go see it. And there was an opportunity last night to raise money, have people bring food, bring clothes, bring blankets, set that up, maybe get the TTC involved to give us the buses so they could put the clothes on the buses and get it to the churches and where the people are. There were opportunities. And again, someone please educate me if those opportunities were taken, and they leveraged last night and they'll leverage tomorrow to help those refugees. Because if they haven't, I think it's a miss on our part. I'm not placing blame on anyone. I'm just saying, if I'm a mosquito, I'm going to be more successful at a nudist colony. Right? If I'm a mosquito.
Yes.
So all I'm saying is, if there's an opportunity to leverage some of the wealth that's going to transfer to Toronto in the next couple of days, I hope some of that wealth will transfer to these people who really need it. The other thing I'm going to say is, we have a brand new mayor in the city of Toronto, and she said, hey, I'm waiting, because we had an election to distract us. So with the last mayor not being there and the new mayor not being in, there was an opportunity for the refugees to fall between the cracks on the agenda of city council. So I understand. But now you are mayor. Now you have some discretionary funds. Now you can do some things, and maybe she is. Well, here's what I do know. There was a dog by the name of Bingo, a police dog, that was shot a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, Jonathan Shaw came on and talked about this big time.
Right. And that dog got a funeral to the tune of $2 million from the city of Toronto. Where did they find the money, Dr. Vibe? Because they had no money for the people sleeping on the streets, but they had $2 million for the funeral of a dog. And I'm a pet lover. Okay, but let's put things in perspective and in context. If you have $2 million for a funeral of a dog, you have $2 million for the refugees. You decided that they were less important than a dog. This is the conclusion I'm drawing. Am I incorrect in my conclusion?
I don't think so.
So if I'm not incorrect, then I'm hoping that the city of Toronto will do right by the refugees. Now that we know there are coffers available to them to do so. We kind of suspected before, but we weren't sure. But now we're sure. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break. We haven't got to our main conversation topic yet, but you know what? This is all relevant in regards to, it all relates to money.
Yes.
Where, you know, it all relates to money. So we're going to take a quick little break and get a shout out from a gentleman who was a supporter of the Morning Vibe and the Dr. Vibe show. So we're going to play this now and we'll be back in just a few moments. Hang tight.
You know, and that's what I feel like. You feel like you're the Harriet Tubman of the mind.
I am.
I feel like I'm I'm one of the Harriet Tubmans of intelligent Black people. Like, I want to liberate y'all from like being left behind and ignored and oblivion. No, really, the rappers get all the attention. You know, seriously, does anybody else feel this way? Like ignorant Black people, they'll be all up, you know, getting all the headlines on the Shade Room.
Overly sexualized Black folks.
Over like the twerkers and just people that don't always represent the best of us. The diversity. Like people like Dr. Vibe. Like everybody should know about people like Dr. Vibe. Dr.
really
Vibe
should.
he's trying to do good work for Black people.
Dr. Vibe from Toronto. Good to see you, my brother. Dr. Vibe. Everybody follow Dr. Vibe. He has a great show. He's very good at what he does, and I have a lot of respect for him. Okay, so let me hop into this. What's up, Dr. Vibe? How you doing? Everybody, if you see Dr. Vibe in the chat, everybody go follow the Dr. Vibe show. Dr. Vibe is a real smart brother and a good human being. I like the guy a lot, and he's very intelligent. And I think everyone should pay attention to what he's got going on. We got to shine the spotlight on the intelligent Black people out here that are really doing the good work. Don't just pay attention to the rappers and the celebrities. A lot of these people are losers. Your true winners are your people in your community that are really having your back. Helping us to have stronger families and a stronger community. So Dr. Vibe is in that category. So you might see the Dr. Vibe show in this chat. If you see him, please go follow him. Okay. All right. So anyway.
All right. So a little break here, and just want to catch up with some conversation. People have been responding. So I got to catch up on some things because the comments have been flying in. So we got to catch up here. So let me go here. Okay. Ray Cole talking about that restaurant in the Montreal here says French toast and fried chicken is to die for. Okay. Dr. Tachi. Good morning, Dr. Tachi hosts the livest program about media, tech, and pop culture online called Mediascope on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Instagram, and then 6 p.m. Eastern Time Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitch, and other platforms. Opal Inspired likes your idea about collecting money tomorrow during the parade. Shirley J has an interesting comment, says, yes, you're correct. However, I think the biggest problem is housing in the city.
Mhm.
Dr. Tachi says, yes, when you adopt a Pan-African mindset, you feel compelled to help all people of African descent. And Divine Right says hello from the DMV area. And then finally, Richard, thank you, you're still with us. Richard saying, all about priorities. We are never a priority.
Yeah.
So
it really comes down to let's talk about housing. So we have a leader who announced last week that he's separating from his wife of 18 years. And that's his personal business, but it's public because he is the most public figure in Canada as the prime minister. And separation is not something that people go into lightly. So I'm not going to comment about the separation, but what I do know is this. Separation and the things that lead to it could be what I call the 3 ins, right? The first in is fidelity. Everybody knows that one, right? The second one is income. You don't have enough money, so you're putting economic pressure on your family. And income is a challenge. One person's a spender, one person's a saver, and the spender is winning, and you're not achieving their goals. And then the third one is insecurity. It's jealousy, and trust issues. And if you have any one of those 3 ins, you have a challenge. I learned that in 1997, and I stand by it. I think there may be more, but those 3 are probably the 3 foundations. I won't speculate on what happened in the Trudeau family, but I would assume one of those 3 ins is in place. And since he was rich before he became prime minister, income is not it. Income is not going to be the issue. She's going to be just fine financially. So let's talk about it. Every year, he's decided that he's going to bring in 400,000 immigrants to Canada. 400,000. Of those 400,000, we see the weighting of the countries that those people are coming from. And those 400,000, very few are coming from the African or the West Indian diaspora. They're coming from other places. So 400,000 people is 1.2 million people over 3 years, which is what he promised to do. And that's fine because we have a lot of land and very few people. There are only 40 million people in Canada. There are 340 million in the United States, and there are 45 million documented in California, which means the entire population of Canada is smaller than the population of California. 90% of Canadians live within 100 kilometers of the US border. 90% of Canadians live within 100 kilometers of the US border. Okay? So, and United States is 80% of our trade. So we know that if we have 400,000 people coming in and housing starts are 50% of what they should be, because cities continue to make it very onerous for developers to build multi-tenanted homes. Single-family homes, they're all for. But if you want to put 4-plexes, 6-plexes, 12-plexes, and high-rises with high density, cities seem to have a problem with that because that invites a different demographic than what that city is looking for. And I'll just leave it at that. Let that feather float to the floor. We know that when most developers are building new high-rises, a percentage of those units are dedicated to rent-controlled units, usually up to about 10%. So if you've got 300 units, 30 units are going to be for low-income housing, and they're doing that. But here I am in Mississauga, and there's a piece of land next to a co-op housing, low-income co-op units, multiple units. And this land has been sitting there. I've been here 16 years. And you could put up 4 towers on that land, and that land is not being developed. Wasn't developed by Hazel McCallion, not being developed by Bonnie Crombie, and Bonnie Crombie has just exited stage left to go become the head of the Ontario Liberal Party. And I'm assuming whoever replaces her will do nothing with that land, because the land right beside it has low-income housing, and this land may have been designated for that, but they're not building on it. And it's right there in the heart of Mississauga, walking distance from the new LRT, walking distance to Square One. There's nothing on this land, just some kind of plant. It's not even grass. It's some kind of plant. And they come and they cut it, and snow is on it, and the birds sit in it, and nothing happens on that land. Multiple acres. I don't know what's going on. Maybe I should find out. So if there's not enough housing already, and we're bringing in $1.2 million, do you think that's going to increase or decrease the price of a house in the GTA?
Yeah.
Right. So now we have pressure because there's very low supply of houses, and they are bringing in more people. So there's going to be even more competition. Now we have a problem with landlords and tenants. Landlords don't have the right to evict tenants. Only the landlord-tenant board can do that. So when they sell a house, a tenant does not have to leave. Can you imagine? You found your dream house. It has a rentable basement. There's a very good tenant in that basement, according to the seller. You sell the house, you buy the house, you move in, you give the N12. Hey, I need that for my mother or my mother-in-law, that space. And the tenant says, I hear you. Let's go to the board and see what they say. And it takes you a year to get a hearing. Ask me how I know. Okay? Takes you a year. And then when you get there, 9 out of 10 times, they will honor the tenant, not the landlord. So I had a tenant. She came, she gave me a sad story. I was like, okay, I'm melanated, you're melanated, I'll help you out. Gave her a place way below market value. She stayed there and she paid her rent. I said it's going to be ratcheted up every year. This is what we're agreeing to. And she followed the agreement. It went from X to Y to Z. And then when I got to Z, I got Z for about 3 months. COVID hit, and she said, I'm not getting any money. I'm not getting any CERB. And she stopped paying. March, April, May, June, July. I go to the board. August, September, October. I get my hearing. Before the hearing comes through, she says, please move your car. I'm bringing a truck. I'm leaving. And she summarily packs up her stuff and leaves, owing me March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, 8 months rent. Dr. Vibe, I did not say a word because she was gone. I ate that rent she owed me, and I have no regrets. But trust me when I tell you, when someone comes to rent again, the level of scrutiny that they will have to show me in order for me to consider rent. And regardless of race, I'm not saying this is a black thing or anything. Regardless of race, I'm going to do not only the credit check, which is the first thing. I'm going to do a criminal background check because they're professional renters who move in, they have stellar credit, and they move in and they don't pay, and then they sublet.
Yes.
So they get rent, but you don't get rent.
Yes.
Right? And there's certain people that have mastered the art and science of Bandulu rentership.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to be a sucker of that. So if I don't know you, chances are you're not going to rent any spot of mine. And if you're not referred to me by someone I respect, you're not going to rent my place. Renting to strangers is a non-starter. I would rather Airbnb. Because if you Airbnb, there are no landlord-tenant board.
Yep.
And you're getting paid up front before they come in.
Exactly.
And you're getting a security deposit if they damage the place.
Yep.
Right? You just have to watch your homeowner's insurance that it can include Airbnb. So you get the Airbnb insurance plus your own home insurance needs to have a rider for Airbnb. So your home insurance is going to go up. You have to see if the math makes sense. But that's what I think I'll do going forward in a jurisdiction that is not in the landlord's favor. And I've been both. I've been a tenant for many, many years before I bought my first place with Angie back in 94. We bought our first place. But I'm not looking to be a victim of that anytime soon. So what do we have here? Let's talk finance.
Okay, let's switch it up and get to, and you can go a little bit past the top of the hour. We got time. We're working on your schedule today.
Okay, perfecto. So why I mentioned housing? Because on my block, people are still selling houses. They're still going out there. They're still gourmeting the houses, doing a bunch of renovations, and they're selling them. And they're selling them for good money. Good money. Here's the challenge. The renters who are now trying to buy homes, if you're paying $3,000 or $2,600 for a one-bedroom condo in downtown Toronto, two-bedroom condo, $3,000. You want a townhouse, $3,500 a month, right? Plus utilities. When you buy a house, those numbers are there. And if you have a variable mortgage, can go up on you. So I've been running variable mortgages for years and years and years. And I was like Floyd Mayweather, never lost. Oh, variable mortgage was so low. It was so good. I was living the dream for years. And all of a sudden, I'm not living the dream. But unlike most people, have the ability to control my income. And I can make more money to cover the doubling of my mortgage. It doubled, right? What was 2 payments is now basically 4 payments in the same time frame. It doubled. I got a statement from my bank. It said, your effective rate is 6.1%. I go, bro, when I first got this mortgage a couple of years ago, it was 1.55. It's 6.1 now. It's breaking the backs of people. So what we know is this. There's an echo. Something's going to happen in the market. Interest rates are going to go up. Every time the Americans raise their rates, we usually raise ours. We've raised ours a quarter point. We've been doing it for the last little while. Well, guess what? The echo of that is not going to be seen until Christmas time, first quarter of next year. It takes a little while for that increase to digest. People are renewing their mortgage. A buddy of mine said, I got a great rate. I got a 5-year at 6.89%.
Wow.
I said, I don't think it's going to be that high for 5 years. See what you can do to get the least amount of time. And this is where, my main man, Ray McMillan, will be able to give guidance on this. But I'm thinking, lock in for, if you have to lock because you cannot handle any more increases, lock in for the shortest period of time the bank will offer
exactly. That's just want to interrupt for a second, Wayne. I actually had this conversation with Ray earlier on this week, and he said that, for people who are out there, if you can lock in for a year, that would be great. But not every institution allows that. So he said, if you can lock in for a year, because he doesn't see the rates going up and up for the next 5 years.
Right.
But that's certainly one of the questions we'll have with Wayne when he comes back on. But sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to share that information there.
I agree with you. I think that the earliest we're going to see anything, and when I say go back to normal, I'm not talking to these low rates, historically low rates. I'm talking, someone getting a 5-year at 4 and change.
Yep.
Maybe low 5, high 4s as a 5-year mortgage. And again, this is not my jam. This is what I'm reading, and this is what they're telling me, is that don't expect anything to change in the favor of the buyer until this time next year.
Yep.
At the earliest.
Yep.
At the earliest. So people have to weather the storm. So how do you weather the storm? You weather the storm by reducing all frivolous debt. Anything you have in your wallet that is being used from a debt perspective, like a credit card, you have to look at every expense on that credit card every day and ask yourself, do I need it? Do I need it? And if I don't need it, don't buy it. If I do need it, can I pay cash? Right? Red alert on credit card debt. Red alert. Get rid of it. So if you have some, that's fine. Work your plan. We've had this conversation on many shows on the different ways to reduce credit card debts. But what I like, and Mr. Dundas is of a different mindset. If there's 3 credit cards, one has a $10,000 balance, one has a $5,000 balance, and one has a $2,000 balance, Roger would say, focus on the $10,000. Right? It's the biggest amount, and it's the one costing you the most money, which is true. So he would say, focus on the 10,000. Once you wipe that out, then go to the 5,000, then go to the 2,000. That's one way to do it. I like to see victory. So if I focus on the 2,000, I put minimum payment on the 10,000, minimum payment on the 5,000, and I put all hands on deck on the 2,000, I can wipe out the 2,000. Once the 2,000 is gone, all minimum payment on the 10,000, all hands on deck on the 5,000, and I'll get rid of the 5,000. Now I've got the money from the 2,000 to 5,000, all hands on deck on the 10,000, and I'm out of debt. So I prefer that way because I get victories along the way. The 10,000 could take you 1, 2, 3 years, and you still have the 5,000 and 2,000. For me, I've gotten rid of the 2,000, then I've gotten rid of the 5,000, and now I can focus on the 10,000. Now I haven't been making any headway with the 10,000 because I'm only paying minimum payments, but that's the last debt I have. The 2 and the 5 are gone. So now I'm working on that and I'm seeing daylight. So I prefer that way to get rid of debt. Next thing you have to look at is your vehicle, right? Used cars were a big deal. They were selling for big money. Why? Because there was a shortage of the rare earth minerals that are required for the electronics in the phones and in the cars, which made everything more expensive. And that's why used cars were getting top dollar. People were driving used cars for 2 and 3 years and selling them for what they bought them for because they were going up so much in price. So if you have 2 cars, do you really need 2 cars? You're working from home. Do you really need 2 cars? Maybe sell one of those cars and get yourself out of debt. Reduce your amount of insurance. For folks who live in geographies where the insurance is insane. I won't name any city names, but it rhymes with Grampton. People who live in that city pay the highest auto insurance rates in the country.
You're kidding.
I kid you not. Google
Why?
it. Because they have the highest number of auto theft, crime, and accidents of any city in the country. Now, other people have bad drivers. Markham's up there too. Mississauga's up there too. I think Mississauga's number 3, Markham's number 2, Brampton's number 1. But if you are attached to Brampton, you're already paying the highest prices. And I've seen people do this, and I don't recommend you do it. Let's say you have a sister who lives in Whitby, and you live in Brampton.
Oh, no. I know where you're going with this.
Right. So people will say, hey, I'm going to use my sister's address, and my insurance is going to drop. This is true. Your insurance will go down if you use someone's address in a lower cost jurisdiction. Here's the challenge. When the auditor comes in to adjust the claim, you're going to say, what were you doing in Brampton? and 10 o'clock if you live in Whitby and you work downtown. Well, I was up there, just checking on my brethren. Okay. And they're going to do their investigation. And when their investigation, not if, they're very good at what they do. When their investigation proves that you live in Brampton, right, not in Whitby, because the only thing in Whitby is your driver's license. Every other Bell bill, Rogers bill, mortgage, everything you have says Brampton.
Whitby, Brampton. Sorry,
right. And only your driver's license says Whitby. They're going to say claim denied.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're toast. Okay. The other thing I want to talk about with regards to auto insurance and home insurance is that if you have multiple vehicles and you have a home, whether it's tenant, you're renting, or you own it, try to combine auto and home with one company. Don't have company A for car A because I got a good deal, company B for car B because I got a good deal, and then company C for the house. Bundling will save you money, sometimes to the tune of 15% or more by adding them all together. I met a client yesterday. He had 2 properties and 3 vehicles, and he had 3 policies.
Wow.
No synergy, right? Not only does he have to deal with 3 different people, but he's making, for what you're saving in insurance costs, you're giving up in your time to herd the cats with multiple expiry dates over the course of the different years. This one expires in March, this one expires in July, so on and so forth. So see if you can consolidate it. The insurance companies are working hard to try to reduce the amount of insurance on these vehicles, because if they can, and the governments are trying to put pressure on them as well, because if they can reduce the amount of insurance you're spending on your house and your car, you can still get an effective policy. You can put more money into the economy, right? You can go out and buy something at one of these big box stores and bring it home in a big cart, if you can pay cash.
Nice.
The other thing we want, so is that fair? Combine your auto and home insurance on one policy with one company. If you're driving for more than 6 years, you have more than 6 years of a track record, reach out to me and let me give you a quote. If you're expiring within 60 days of your policy expiring, any one of them, reach out to me and then I can get you a quote. If you just renewed, don't bother. I can't help you. But if you're 60 to 90 days before your renewal, reach out to me and I might be able to get you either a better deal on price or more value. Because whether you have 1 million in coverage or 2 million in coverage matters, right? Whether you have a deductible of $1,000 or $500 or $100 matters. All those things change the price. So if I can look at your insurance and see that you have a $200 deductible or $100 deductible, if you raise your deductible, you will drop your price.
There you go.
So
All
imagine.
Right.
Go ahead.
No, so just want to catch up with some comments here. A Divine Right says the apartment subletting and overcrowding is awful here in the DMV. My size apartment should only have 3 people in there. My neighbor Heather Harris
Yes.
says, good morning, Dr. Vibe and Wayne. And
Shout out to Maryland. Shout out to Maryland.
All right. And also Divine. We have we're broadcasting a bit of this on Instagram Live. Carrie Mullins, Mama Canada on IG. Thanks for dropping in. We're chatting with Wayne Harris on the top financial industry concepts and news from the industry on the Morning Vibe. We have Wayne in the first Friday of each month. Wayne, I don't know if you want to continue. Hey, Father Panur from Georgia. Hope you're doing well. Something that I thought was interesting in the news this week is the lowering of the credit rating of the United States by an agency, and the potential ripple effect that's not only going to have on the American economy, but the Canadian potential effects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the lower your credit rating, the more you pay to borrow money. So the U.S. is borrowing from the Fed to finance their endeavors to spread democracy around the world, and to pay down and to pay on their debt. So if you lower the rating, the rate for them to pay down their debt is going to go up, and again, it's going to ripple through the market and the economy. You're not going to see it today. You're going to see it, 6 to 9 months in the future. So watch the actions of today will echo tomorrow. So what's going to happen is the next president will deal with that, not this president, because Biden's on his way out, and the next president will have to deal with that lower rating. But just like you as an individual, the lower your credit score, the more it costs you to borrow. So for everybody on here who has credit, you have 2 facilities in Canada. You can go to Equifax or TransUnion and ask for your credit score, and they'll show you what's on your credit. You want to check that at least once a year. A, because there's a lot of fraud going on and people are using people's credit you don't even know. B, you want to know if someone is hurting your credit for something you may have paid off and have the receipts for, but it hasn't been removed from your bureau. Usually they stay on your bureau for 6 to 7 years, and maybe they were supposed to remove it last year and they haven't. You can make an inquiry and say, you're supposed to remove this. It's more than 6 years. And they'll say, oh, yes, we will. And they will do it. And you follow up and get it in writing and keep your credit north of 680. 680 is a magic number. If I were in the finance business, someone like Ray McMillan, if I were going to get a tattoo, the tattoo would say 680, right? Because 680 is a minimum bar for good credit. So you want to be north of that number. 7s are better. 8s are even better. Everything in life is less expensive the higher your credit score. So defend and protect your credit. Now, we did a show on that before.
Yep.
On credit, but I just want people to know that if you have credit, just make sure if you have old credit cards, and you want to cut them, but don't cancel them. Cutting them means you're not using the card. You're not using the card, but you still have the credit. You can go to the bank and say, I need a new card, I lost my card, and replace it. But the credit's still there. Why? Because old credit counts for 10% of your score, your credit score. So if you have an 800 credit score, 80 points on that credit score is just how long you've had the credit. I've had my credit, my first credit card in Ontario was my card that I got at Humber College. Shout out to Humber. Humber had, we're all new coming in September, and they had all the tables there. They had all the banks there, and I got a card. That card is from 1992. It's one of my oldest credit cards I have in my wallet, right? I don't use that card much, but I still have it because there's no annual fee on that card. So there's nothing harming me to keep that card. 2, if you have credit cards and you have balances on them, keep the balance at worst 50% or less of the limit. You got a $10,000 limit, do not have more than $5,000 on the card. Even better, do not have more than $3,000 on the card.
Okay.
And that will raise your credit. Right?
That's a good point right there. That's something I hadn't heard from hardly anybody. That's a really good nugget there, Wayne.
Yeah. So utilization, right? How much are you using the card? Keep the card under 50 at worst
of the limit.
30% at best. Obviously, the best thing to do is pay the card off to zero at the end of every statement cycle. You get the statement that says you have $10,000 on it, wipe it out. Right? Your credit will be high. They will not make a dime off of you, and you still have great credit. Next thing you want to do with a credit card is call your credit card company, unless you have a card that has benefits, travel benefits, cash back, and these kind of sexy things on it. And some of those things make sense and some of them don't, depending on your lifestyle. You have to do the math. There's a number of YouTube people that will go through the credit cards and show you which card is best for cash back in Canada and the US, and which one's best for travel and which one's best for groceries and so on and so forth. Pick the card that you need for your lifestyle. But if you have a card that doesn't have any of those benefits, you can negotiate the annual fee or change the card to get one without an annual fee. You can also ask for the interest rate to be reduced. All you have to do is call and say, hey, my card's at 21.9. What's the best you can do so I don't have to cancel this card? They don't want to lose you, especially if you have a balance. They don't want to lose you because they know you're a cash machine. They love you. I've gotten as much as 10% cut off my card on asking the question, hey, what's the best rate I can get with this card? This one at 21.9 or 19.9 is unsustainable. And they drop that sucker down to 11.99. They go, how's that? I go, 11.99 is great. Thank you. Right? That's a 10% drop for making a phone call. Right?
So let me give you, okay, before we go any further, got some people shouting out here. Got Trevor Dunlop. Thank you. You're always on when Wayne's on here, I notice. Doc, good morning to both of us. Great insights as always. Divine Red says, if I have newer cards within a couple of years and wanted to cancel them, would that be wise? They aren't sexy with benefits. I just want to get the amount of the cards I have down.
Yeah, good point. If they're newer cards, and there's no fee to keep the card, and you have the discipline to not use the card, keep the card. Because you never know when your business is going to need a cash infusion, and you may need a grant, or you may need something and you can't qualify for it. You'll have all that credit available to you. You don't have to ask anybody for it. You can go use it. So let's say there's a piece of equipment that you need for your business and it costs $7,000 and you didn't get the grant or you didn't get the loan from the bank to get it, but you have all these dormant credit cards sitting in a drawer that are active and they have more than $7,000 worth of credit. You know, if you got that machine, you could pay off the machine in less than 3 months, but then you have the credit there. So I'm not a fan of killing credit cards if I don't have to. Keep the cards, but keep them dormant if there's no monthly fee, because the banks only lend you money when you have money. Ray McMillan will speak to this too. When you're broke, the banks don't lend you money. When you don't need money, that's when the banks call you and say, can we lend you money? Because they know you have the character, which is the ability to pay.
Okay, more great conversation. We got some more comments here. Ryan Smith is saying, this is great. Elemental notes. Morning, Dr. Vibe and Wayne. Wayne looking sharp as usual. Thank you for the gems. Someone you know, Heather Harris, says, it appears at the end of the day, it is the working people who suffer when these actions happen at the top interest rates, lowering the rating. How do we protect ourselves long term? This is not going to stop.
Yes, great question. And I'm biased for her because she's my big sister.
Yes.
Great question. What we want to do is we want to be, first of all, we have to have a plan. What is it you want to do in this thing called life? Do you want to buy a house? Do you want to pay off your house? Some people want to pay off their house. Some people don't. Some people have no problem in carrying a mortgage as long as the mortgage is sustainable and they can use the money to refinance the house to go and buy more houses. All that's great. So what is it you want to do long term? And then we build a plan based on that. Rule of thumb is if you don't need it, don't buy it. Our grandparents did that and they lived within their means because credit was only invented, 50, 60 years ago. Before that, you had cash or you had layaway. You didn't have the money. You went to the store and you said, I want to buy that dress for the big ball. And they would say, you can put this thing on layaway for 24 months. Give me your money. I will not give you the dress. The dress will be in the back of the store. Give me money for 24 months. At the end of 24 months, I will give you the dress, but there's no interest, but you don't have the dress. And you hope and pray that retailer didn't go out of business and that they had a very good accounting system for the dress. And we did that for many, many years. Credit's a relatively new thing. And a lot of people don't understand how to use it. Remember that if you're going to have a credit card, the ideal situation is to pay it off to zero. If you're not going to pay off to zero, the next thing to do is do not pay off the minimum. Pay off as much as you possibly can every month at or before the statement date to reduce the amount of interest you have. The other move is this. There's a couple of banks out there that will give you a 0% card transfer. So if you have a card with $10,000 on it, you have another card with $10,000 on it, and you have another card with $5,000 on it, that's $25,000. You can move all three of those balances to another card that will pay 0%, charge you 0% for 9 months to a year. Here's the catch. 3% of the balance must transfer. That's the fee to do it. So it's going to cost you 3%, $750 to move $25,000 over, to pay nothing on that $25,000 for a year or 9 months. And you have to have the discipline to eat the 750, which you probably would have paid in interest on the other cards because the balances were so high.
Yep.
Eat that 750 and then kill those cards with that zero base card, because what that means is every penny you put on that card is going towards the principal and not towards the interest, because there is no interest. So if you put 2,000 in, 25 becomes 23. You put 2,000 in, 23 becomes 21. You see that thing going to zero, you get excited, you hammer that card until it's paid to zero. When it gets to zero at the end of the 9 months, you decide if you want to keep the card or not. But you still have your other 3 cards that all have zero balances, and your credit score will go up because your utilization has gone down. Make sense?
Makes sense to me. I hope it makes sense to Heather. Okay.
So for her, simply put, the Americans have a great advantage on us. They have the ability to get 30-year mortgages. And if they had 30-year mortgages from a couple of years ago, their rate's locked in until they pay off that house. So the volatility that Canadians have by having to get mortgages every 1, 3, or 5 years, open or closed, the Americans don't have that risk because they can lock into a rate for 30 years. So her question is less daunting on home ownership in the US because you have 30-year mortgages. We only have 5-year mortgages. And there's a reason for that. And I'm not sure. That's a Ray McMillan question. But I assume our banks being more, how should I put it? There's less competition, so they can do things that are not in our best interest. In the same way, we have less competition for banks. We also have less competition for telecom. So we only have 3 carriers, and those 3 carriers give us multiple flavors, but we only have 3 carriers. You want to fly to Jamaica, you really have 2 or 3 carriers that will get you there. So
absolutely,
oligopoly and or monopoly means there's less competition, and that means prices are going to go up. America has a lot of banks, a lot of mortgage companies, a lot of different places to go, a lot of competition, and 10 times the population, 8 times the population. So they have more options than we do. For my sister, I say this: know what it is you want between now and retirement.
Yeah,
and then
that's
work
the
with
key.
work with your advisor to reverse engineer. Here's where I want to be. Here's where I am. Go from where you want to be and work backwards to where you are, and then start working towards where you want to be. And that requires a financial needs analysis and a plan. And I offer those complimentary, Dr. Vibe. Imagine that.
Yeah. Well, you know what? So a few things as we continue on the conversation. I'm going to put Wayne's contact information back on the screen. So a few things. Broadcasting live on Instagram Live. What's up, The Real Greg Walker? Thank you so much, The Real Greg Walker. Actually, we're going to shut down the Instagram broadcast, but if you want to catch the rest of this conversation, go to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube. You can watch it live or watch replay. As always, remember to give yourself grace. Don't just manage your time, manage your energy. And The Real Greg Walker, I will send you a video message this evening. Be well and keep the faith.
Perfecto.
Okay. And also, and it's interesting. I have in my side comments here, there's always, you said a little while back, and I'm just going to piggyback on what you shared here. The 3 key questions: where are you now? Where do you want to go?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you want to get there?
Mm-hmm. I agree.
You said that a long time ago. I still have that written down, and it's very, not only in a financial journey, but just in life. It's very applicable. Heather says thank you to her little brother. Dr. Tachi, who lives in Fort Lauderdale, says my rate is only 3% for my mortgage.
Love it.
3%. Wow. Listen, if Canadians could have 3% for their mortgage, wow.
She's winning. She's winning. Listen, Ray McMillan can speak to this better than I can. You know, the technical term for Canadian real estate is, how should I put it? Teething. That's a technical word for Canadian real estate. Especially in Ontario, overpriced and just brutal. When you look at what you can get for $1 million in most places in the United States, other than maybe the big hubs, maybe not in LA, maybe not in New York, maybe not in downtown Chicago, or DC, but if you go to Texas or Florida or Tennessee, or Nevada, you get a lot of house for the same $1 million. And really what people have to look at is real estate investing and where you live don't have to equal the same thing. There are opportunities not only in the United States, but there's opportunities in other countries that you can take that money and their interest rates and what they're doing and what it costs you to get into a home and have someone property manage it for you, rent it out, and have it running 24/7, 365 without you having to be there. There are those opportunities, and Ray is better suited to answer those questions. But if someone says, I cannot leave this realm, I cannot transition to the ancestors without owning a piece of property, you do not have to buy that property where you physically live. That property can be bought anywhere on the planet as long as you have the know-how, the team, and the visibility and transparency to buy that thing and run it and operate it at a profit.
Okay. Dr. Tachi is saying, yes, I'm looking to buying in other countries. Well, Dr. Tachi, Ray McMillan's been on here. You've watched Ray. You can speak with Ray. And I also have another lady who's on my Saturday night show, Laura Lala Key, who she resides all over the place. In the States, it's California, but right now she's in Portugal and she's selling real estate properties in Portugal. Portugal right now is hot, not only weather-wise, but real estate is hot in Portugal right now. So if you're thinking about like a country like Portugal, get it now, because she says the prices are going up because not only a lot of Europeans, but a lot of Americans are buying property there. So definitely Ray McMillan, I think you have his contact information. And if you need Laura Lalaki, I can give it also. They would be more than happy to give you some knowledge and education because they're actually in foreign countries right now doing that.
Yeah, Portugal's hot. I mean, there's some countries in Europe that are saying if you come to this city in Italy, where the population is only 2,500 people and most of the people are over the age of 60, we need immigration, and they will pay you to come. Yep. They'll pay you to come. So if you have the ability to work remote and they have high-speed internet,
you're good.
Why not?
You're good.
Right? Why not? The other country that of note is I'm seeing a lot of Ghana. You know, people are returning home, and a lot of Americans are buying in Ghana. Some people are buying in Rwanda, which has one of the hottest economies in Africa, and obviously Nigeria in some of the better cities. They have great houses and when you see the prices, you're like, that's not even a one-bedroom condo in Toronto, and you're living in a mansion in a gated community. Yep. So you really have to look at, that's a picture, that's Instagram. You have to do your due diligence. But buying something outside of your country, especially when things are going the way they're going now, if you can get the money at a great rate and you're dealing with reputable companies
and people
to make sure that you're not buying, swampland in wherever you're looking to buy. So again, things are going to get tighter for Canadians over the next little while. And some people who were crazy buying multiple properties at 1% and 2% on variable because they thought the gravy train was never going to leave, those people are having to sell their third properties and go down to 2. And their second properties can't cover because the renter's saying, I don't care what the interest rates are. I have a lease and you can't raise that by more than cost of living. And I'm not giving you a dime more. And by the way, if you sell the house, I don't have to leave. So be very aware, at least in Canada. It's not true in the United States. Certain states are better than others. But in Ontario, it's very difficult to get rid of people, even when you sell. And if you have a good relationship with them and you sweeten the pot, like I have a buddy of mine going through this right now. I said, listen, if they're going to cover your move and they're going to give you 5 or 6 G's, to make up the difference in what you're going to pay in market rent, because you're never going to get the deal he has is really a 2005 deal for rent, and it's 2023. He's paying 2005 rent in 2023. He's not going to get that anywhere else. He's going to pay double anywhere he goes. So how many doubles does he want them to cover for him to leave? That's what he needs to ask them. Because if he doesn't leave, they may not be able to sell the house. But if they give him $10,000 and his moving costs, they've covered 8 months of doubling or a year of doubling. right? If they give him 7,500, they'll cover a year of doubling. So if they give him moving costs of 7,500, which is 10 grand, he'll leave gladly.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So what he's competing against is zero. Get nothing and leave. Or stay, which will, upset the seller and the buyer, but they know they can't do anything about it for at least a year. So he's banking that money. So it's $7,500 in his pocket that he's banking because of what he would pay if he left. Or they can just pay him $75,000, $7,500, or $10,000 now, and he's gone tomorrow. They sell the house empty. Everybody's happy. But the landlord's trying to use emotion for him to put himself in a double the cost. And they pulled the trigger. He didn't pull the trigger. He didn't say, I want to leave. He would never leave. He's paying so little rent. Just cut the check, landlord. Give him $10,000 and say, you were a great tenant. Here's 10 G's. We know it's going to be double out there, but we really like you to leave so we can sell the house empty.
Okay.
And maybe he goes, maybe he takes it. We'll see.
All right. One final conversation piece from Heather. Great question. How do we prepare our children?
Ooh.
That's a whole segment in itself.
Yeah, maybe that's a topic for next. Back to financial school. I did one last week. I think that teaching kids about the value of money at an early age is key. There's a lot of content out there. I haven't had the opportunity to talk to kids other than using the economic program for junior achievement, which I used back in the day when I was a part of the UFSC, or now COFP. There's a curriculum designed for children, teach them about interest, teach them about expenses. So they're not asking the parents for PS5, and whenever PS6 comes out, they're asking for that, like money grows on trees. You actually show them the value of money. And that's something that we can do and need to do better of, because K to 12 in Ontario, the curriculum for personal finance is just now coming out. Ontario's been around for 200 years. We're just getting to teach personal finance in schools now, right? Which means people come out and make bad decisions, which is why everybody has a story about a telecom company that ripped them off and they stopped paying their bill and it damaged their credit. Now they want to buy a house 6 years later and their credit's trash and they don't know why. Well, it's because of what you did with that telecom company when you were 18, 19, when you got your first cell phone and decided you didn't want to pay the bill because you didn't like the way they were treating you.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
I'm going to make two suggestions. I'm not a financial head, but I think one thing, how do we prepare your children? If you can, especially if they're young, invest weekly amount into stocks. Just a small weekly amount into like stock markets. And that's more Wayne's alley than mine, but that's one thing. And a second thing, tell kids to look or educate them about entrepreneurship even at an early age.
Right.
Even at an early age. But definitely and it's because many of our parents weren't that way. A lot of us in a certain age group, our parents, when they left, didn't have anything to give us. And I think we have the knowledge, many of us, I'm not saying all of us, to put money aside for our kids, especially, even before they're born, start put like savings account or whatever, investments, whatever, and just leave it there. So when they get to 19, 20, 30 years old, if they get let go from a job for whatever reason, a lot of times it's not their fault. They can say, okay, I'm good. I got this amount of money that my parents set up for me when I was really, really young, that I don't have to deal with these microaggressions. Or if I have microaggressions, say, okay, I'm good. But those are two suggestions. I'm not saying they're good all the time, but certainly the entrepreneurship, really, really, really important. I have a nephew. He is smart as a lick when it comes to math, loves computers and all this stuff. And my brother said, so, what would she do with him? I said, yeah, I'd certainly have him go to university, but tell him about entrepreneurship. He can do this stuff. He can start something on his own. So if he gets hassled in the corporate world, he's got something to look into. Just a thought.
I agree with that. I'll tell you a story to end it off. Yesterday, I was with one of my colleagues, and he said when he was 12 years old, he lived so close to home in Scarborough that he would run home and watch cartoons at lunch. Right? We know back in the day. Yeah, back in the day, it was Flintstones or
12:30 on CFTO.
Yeah, leave it to Beaver, whatever was on from 12 to 12:30 before you had to go back to school. And one day he came home to watch cartoons. His father said, "Turn it to the stock channel." So he turned it, and all you saw was the tickers coming across. And he goes, what do you see happening over there? His father and him would have a discussion at lunch about the ticker and what was going on. It was only the top 25 or top 50 stocks, and he would see all the stocks. His father says, "Pick some." He goes, "Based on what you're seeing, pick some." He's 12. And his father says, he gives his father a list. And one of them was Seagram's back in the day. So we're talking old school. And Seagram's, he said, was too expensive. But there's another company called Hiram Walker. And Hiram Walker was also, look, he goes, he's 12. He goes, everybody drinks. And look, he's 12. He goes, everybody drinks. So this stock is gonna go up. He buys the stock. He has from his paper route $3,600. He takes all $3,600 and buys 150 shares at 12 of Hiram Walker.
Don't talk to me.
Well, let me tell you, long story short, 8 months later, it goes up 60%. And that sparks his interest in becoming a stockbroker. And he goes into finance and he becomes an investment banker. And now he's working with me. And he's my investment arm of my business. 12. You understand? So when you think about what parents are teaching their children from our community versus what other communities, he's Greek. What his father said, because I remember coming home watching Spider-Man and Flintstones all day. I was yabba dabba doing with the best of them. No one told me change. And he says he had the remote control with the cord and the buttons. Remember that one?
Yep.
Right? This was called the Gerald, bing, bing, bing. You press that thing, right? His father said, turn it to the stock channel. And that changed his life and changed his mindset about money. And he's been on that journey. He and I are the same age. His birthday is next week. His financial journey versus mine versus yours, very different.
Absolutely.
Because of the inputs that were given to him at an early age.
Absolutely.
One of the things that taught me, and my sister can attest to this, last point, is that we played Monopoly. And Monopoly is one of the best ways to teach kids, hey, if you're a landlord, you win. If you're paying rent, you lose. If you don't have assets on the board,
you lose.
You lose. You better have enough money to pay rent when you land on somebody else's spot, or you will go to jail. Right? So Monopoly is an analogy for life, or metaphor for life.
Yeah.
And Monopoly is one of those games that I used to get super frustrated at because I used to, everybody wanted Broadway and Park Place, but you can make a whole lot of money with railroads. And my brother was a railroad king. He'd buy all the railroads. We would trade for the railroads. And then before we knew it, he had all four. And then when you landed on a railroad, you go bankrupt because you were done because he had all four of them, right?
Ownership.
So Monopolies, and there are other games available to play with kids to teach them about money and the concept of ownership, right? Entrepreneurship is a word, but ownership is a word that's older than entrepreneurship.
True. Well, I did my Monopoly. My game was a game called Rat Race.
That too. We played that too.
Yes. Lower class, middle class, high class. I loved that game. I think it's, you know what? I gotta get a copy of that.
We should get there's a couple of places in the GTA that have board games, and you come in, you can play the board games. Listen, I'm down for a game of Rat Race or Snakes and Ladders. Let's go.
You know what? We should get a group of guys and have that. I like that. So Wayne, as always, let me just your dear sister saying indeed, saying fantastic story, says Wayne has always been good with money. Ownership is a must. And Heather wants in on the board night too.
Let's do it.
You know what? It'd be cool. We do this board night and we broadcast a little bit on Instagram Live.
Yes.
I think we got to. I think there's an idea there. I really think there's an interesting. I think that we could get enough people either on a Saturday afternoon or Sunday afternoon, have a board game afternoon, a money board game afternoon. I think it'd be some very interesting people that'd be willing to show up at that.
Listen, I want to play with Tim Frey, Roger
Okay.
Dundas, Ray
Whoa!
McMillan,
Whoa!
you, Ryan
Whoa!
Knight, Dr. Tachi. One Monopoly of the game. Let's go.
Okay. Well, Dr. Taj, you have to come up here from Fort Lauderdale, but maybe we could start it off with, but I think we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that. So as always, Wayne, I want to thank you for taking time out of your positive, productive schedule to share with us today. And yeah, fun as always. Book appointment with Wayne. I've been showing it at the screen. Calendar. There's an had a story about someone shared it with me on WhatsApp, and I'm not a big WhatsApp fan because, as I said to Wayne, I get a lot of junk with it. But I'm going to remind him next month when he comes on. He shared a story that one of his, really say former clients, and it's not because, let's just say it was a very unfortunate story because they're a former client, and you need to hear this story. Like I watch it at least once a week, say this is a reality check. And this happened to someone that was in their early 30s.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know, so look at this. So Ryan Singh says Money Fridays. Trevor says, yeah, you still have a copy of Rat Race and Monopoly, Trevor? Where are you at, man? We're gonna have to invite you too.
Bring it down. Bring it down. Bring it down.
And Divine Right says, can we play virtually? I would love to be. Okay, this is one of the things I'm going to take a look at because I think this would be there'd be good fellowship, and I think a lot of people would be into this. So as always, want to say thank you for taking the time. All the best to you, Angie, and the rest of the family. Again, your 2 kids who are just rocking the house.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you. Have a great weekend. And I won't see you at Caravana, but let's see what happens tomorrow.
Okay, take care. Be well. All right, family. Oh, great conversation. Man, Rat Race. Trevor, you have a copy of Rat Race? What? I wish I said I love that game, and I for me it was the anti-Monopoly game. Like everyone was into Monopoly, but I loved my Rat Race. And you go, you land on the racetrack and you throw your dice, and it was so good, such a good game. Well, let's finish it off here today, everyone. Hey, thanks to everyone for watching live on the replay. It's appreciated, not taken for granted. A few things as always. You can watch replays of the Morning Vibe at the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and Facebook, Afro-Caribbean Business Network on Facebook and YouTube, and Ryan Oneil Knight on YouTube. So let's do a few things. As always, please like the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube, subscribe, hit the notification button. Also, like it also on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. As always, join the Morning Vibe Discord group. Please email me. I'm going to see if I can get Wayne on this because I know we need to bring up the engagement. Let me see if I can get Wayne on there because I need to give him a little bit of a kick on there, and he can share some of his stories on the Discord group. Maybe get you to come on, some of y'all. And then also to advertise, email me dr@thedrvibeshow.com. So it is a long weekend here in Ontario, the province that I live in, but we are going to be broadcasting live on Monday. And so Ryan says he has someone, so we'll let it happen. Heather says, you rock, Dr. Vibe. Blessings. Well, I rock through me. It's not in me, it's through me. Great individuals like Wayne and everyone who watches. Good stuff. And Trevor Donald says, absolutely. You got me hooked about this Rat Race thing, man. You got me hooked. So as always, want to end off with this. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions. Aim bigger. Aim better. Aim higher. Aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Remember to give yourselves grace. And don't just manage your time. Manage your energy. If you're watching this live or somewhat on the Friday here, have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday. God bless. Peace and well. Keep the faith and walk good.